overnight. We're getting into all of it. Rolling up the sleeves?
Wait, Molly, you see that rolling up the sleeves?
He's working.
I'm rolling up the sleeve for two reasons.
What?
One, because we got a lot of stuff to get into, and two, because I was rushing out my house and I completely forgot my suit jacket. My bad, y'all.
I thought you were going into like Oscar
Madison,
hardcore, hard-bitten sports writer mode.
I gotta look.
All right.
I gotta look the part.
Here's what we got. LeBron James with the buzzer beater to win Game 5. Russell Westbrook, yeah, he might have topped that, pulling off a 25-point comeback. Did I mention it's draft day? Top quarterback prospect Josh Allen with racially offensive tweets. Stephen A. spoke to him. Adam Schefter has the latest. Plus, Landon Collins will tell us who the G-men should take with the second overall
all one
pick.
show?
All one show, all today. That's why you had to be in the building. All right, let's get into it, gentlemen. So we begin with Josh Allen's racially insensitive tweets from high school, which surfaced last night, where he used the N-word and phrases like white is right. He has since apologized. Stephen A., you spoke to him directly late last night. What's your take on this?
Josh Allen called me after 2 o'clock in the morning. He wanted to talk to me about it. He wanted to explain. He was tremendously contrite. He was apologetic. He recognized that it was irresponsible for him to do the things that he did. He attributed, obviously, largely to youth. Him and his friends were playing around, making, saying stuff like this. The quote that he got, he said one of them was from the show Modern Family. If it ain't white, it ain't right. Phil Dunphy, the character on there on the Modern Family, he said that. They actually sent it to me, where it's true. Yeah. That's what was said on the show Modern Family. If it ain't white, it ain't right. That was an episode on there, and that's what he was quoting. And another quote with the scheming or whatever it was, he got that from Rick Ross. And so his whole point was that there's no excuse. He was wrong. He realizes the times that we're living in. It's incredibly unfortunate that he made that kind of mistake, but he said it is a mistake. People who know him know what he's made of, people that he plays with in the locker room. He's got a lot of friends that he loves and loves him back, and they know that this isn't indicative of his character. But nevertheless, he was incredibly apologetic because he said at this particular moment on the eve of the draft, this is an incredibly bad look. He recognizes that, and then he wanted to take an opportunity to apologize to everybody out there for putting himself in this position and saying the foolishness that he said.
So basically, let me get this straight. His claim about the tweets is that he's basically referencing popular culture.
That's right.
And he's joking around doing it.
That's what he said.
There's no racist intent or anything like that.
That's absolutely
Hold that thought, because I want to get your take on this in just a second. But we want to bring in Adam Schefter live from Dallas right now, the site of tonight's draft. Good morning, Adam.
Good morning, everybody.
Adam, what are you hearing on Allen, and how could this potentially impact his draft status?
Well, it's a really interesting situation, obviously, where the timing is rather strange. Just within the last hour, a couple of people have floated the theory, and I emphasize it's just a theory, that perhaps another team actually did this to Josh Allen in the hopes that he would fall to them. Because the timing is so odd that it would happen right before the draft, when my understanding was his social media account was gone through back in January, and the tweets were removed back then. So somebody captured them and saved them and released them now, about 24 hours before he's drafted. So now teams are faced with a decision about Josh Allen. And again, in talking to two decision makers this morning, one said that his team was unaware of it, that they had looked into Josh Allen's background, done extensive research, and they had got nothing but quote-unquote positive things on him. Another one said he had been unaware of this, but again, they have had so many experiences with offensive tweets showing up in someone's background. Now, this is a racially insensitive tweet. This is a horrendous thing. But the fact of the matter is teams have seen this sort of thing before, like this, and so now teams are left with a decision, and I don't think again, it will go unnoticed today. Teams will be meeting throughout the day to figure out how to handle this. I don't think in the grand scheme of things it's going to have a huge impact on. We remember Laramie Tunsil, the images of him smoking in the bong being released just before the draft. He fell down to the Miami Dolphins when many people had projected him as a top 5 pick. I think he wound up going that year about number 13 or so, if I remember correctly. I think it could impact Josh Allen's position some. But I can tell you this, teams are going to be meeting today to discuss how they should best handle it.
Adam Schefter, maybe it's an impossible question, but I think it needs to be asked anyway. When you talk about how convenient the timing is or how suspicious the timing may be and how there's a suspected foul play or insidious play on the part of somebody hoping that he'll drop down, any indication from folks in the NFL that you talk to as to who the culprit may be in all of this?
Well, Stephen A., we don't even know that that's real. I'm just telling you there are people who think that. Okay, I'm not telling you that it is real. I really don't know what to believe at this point in time. When we're 10, 11 hours out of the draft, there's so much smoke going on right now. Again, these images, to my understanding, were removed from Josh Allen's account in January. So if they're removed in January, how is it that February, March, April, 3 months later, right before the draft, they all of a sudden show up just like that? Obviously, somebody wanted to damage Laremy Tunsil. Obviously, somebody wanted to damage Josh Allen. Is that a friend? Is that a team? Is that some unsuspecting person who just decided to weigh in the middle of the night when Yahoo unearthed these particular tweets? That's possible. I guess you could ask the Yahoo reporter who discovered this, how this happens. But I'm not telling you that a team did that. I'm just telling you that I've had people suggest to me that maybe a team would have done this to basically.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. The people that said that suggested somebody may have done this in the NFL, did they give you an indication of who they thought it was? That's all I was asking. I'm sorry.
No.
Okay.
And again, it's hard for us to even conclude or deduce that somebody actually would do that. But when you hear it, you say, that's interesting. No idea if it's true, but it is interesting.
Looking for Tweetgate, Stephen A?
I was asked.
Adam, it's very interesting. You're right, because it's multi-layered. It could be a friend, it could be foe, it could be someone who thinks highly of him or someone who hates him, right? Someone who really wants to grab him, hope his draft stock falls, or someone who's really actually just trying to damage him. But in your experience, and this turns out, according to Josh Allen's explanation to Stephen A., to be appropriation of popular culture, maybe in an unthinking way, and so it maybe won't be viewed as a racist or a thing that says something bad about his character. He did it when he was in high school. But in your experience, does something like this hurt a player as much as, say, something like substance abuse in his background or some kind of violent behavior in his background? How is this likely to affect a prospect's draft status?
Look, I think it's a blemish on his resume. It's a big blemish, and it's something that will always be remembered about him. And again, we're talking about Laremy Tunsil LeBlanc. Would you want somebody recalling the draft of 2018 and how on the eve of the draft, racially insensitive tweets surfaced regarding Josh Allen? Whatever he meant by them, whether they were a pop culture reference or not, we don't know. But the fact of the matter is, there are always certain moments in certain drafts that you remember. This will be attached, for better or worse, to Josh Allen's legacy here. And he is going to have to go prove, wherever he goes, that that is not like him, or he's changed, or that's not the kind of guy that he is, or he's the kind of guy that called Stephen A. and Stephen A. explained whatever he said that he did to him. But this is something, obviously, that is not going to be tolerated and accepted. Racial insensitivity is not going to be accepted in the NFL. It's not going to be accepted in locker rooms. That is going to be frowned upon worse than any sort of illegal offense, substance abuse issue, whatever it may be. I think there are a few things in a locker room that could draw more criticism and scrutiny than being racially insensitive. So that's something that Josh Allen's going to have to carry with him to whatever his next stop is, and he's going to have to win the trust of his fellow teammates and organization going forward, and it's something that he's going to have to weather through. This is his situation now. I think it's more of a situation for him than the team that drafts him.
Adam, is it worse for him because of what we just witnessed in the NFL last season, the protest, the divide that ultimately it caused? Is it worse for him now because of the times that we're living in as it pertains to the NFL and Colin Kaepernick and everything else that pertains to?
Stephen, I don't know how to answer that other than to say that we are living in an extraordinarily unique time in the NFL where players' voices are being heard, where that sort of attitude is not going to be accepted, where there's more voices and more opposition to this type of thing and more attention drawn to the issue than ever before. So now we have an issue where you decide what you believe on Josh Allen, whether it was a pop culture reference, whether he meant something, whether he's grown up from it, and you factor that into what's going on in the league today. Then you make the decision. I don't know how that's going to play out. It's a tough thing to say, but it's a very, very different time in the world. It's a different time in the NFL. And Josh Allen now will find out exactly how different it is.
Yeah, and we'll certainly be finding out tonight as it is draft day. Adam Schefter, thank you so much for the time and the insight on a very busy day joining us from Dallas.
Thank you, Adam.
Thanks, Adam.
Great job, Stephen A.
Thank you.
I want to add that before this news broke, Josh Allen was scheduled to be here on First Take, and then when the story broke, he did cancel that appearance.
And first, in the interest of full disclosure, obviously I offered him to, come on First Take. That's not something that he wanted to do. I don't have any idea why he picked up the phone and called me at 2 o'clock in the morning. But nevertheless, it is what it is. Here's the reality of the situation and what I'm going to appeal from it. It was an irresponsible thing to do. There is no getting around that. But we live in a different age, and I hold adults to a higher level of culpability and responsibility than I'm going to hold a teenager to. Similar to DiVincenzo for the Villanova Wildcats after they won the national championship, and that stuff was brought up about him. When you've got the hip-hop industry and the rap music and the lyrics that's spewed and the way that word, the N-word, is thrown out there and what have you, it's pretty difficult to look at youngsters on a come-up, regardless of color, and not recognize the fact that they've been given the belief that it's okay. And it's incumbent upon people like myself, Jalen Rose, and many, many others who have stated this, that, as a black person, we do not want to hear that word coming out of the mouth of somebody who is not black. Having said all of that, the level of responsibility and culpability that I'm going to place on an adult is entirely different than I'm going to place on a kid that's 15 years of age. And I think it's incredibly important to recognize that this is something that happened years ago. He was a teenage kid. According to him, he was hanging out with his boys, Max. Sometimes they would steal each other's phone and put stuff on it. He didn't say that happened with him in this particular instance. He was saying, ultimately, I own it. It was on my Twitter account. He owns it, et cetera, et cetera. But in the end, what it comes down to is that, again, he was wrong. He recognizes he was wrong. And for me personally, it's not even about that. It's about the fact that I'm talking to a guy that committed this mistake when he was 15, 16 years of age. And it's pretty difficult for me to look at him on the eve of potentially being the #1 overall pick in the NFL draft and say, you know what? This should be held against you to the point where it could jeopardize your draft status because of something you did when you was 15 or 16 years old. It's very difficult for me to take that position.
Whenever I hear that a white guy, a white person, is using the N-word in a previous tweet, I'm thinking, please tell me that it's really a hip-hop lyric or something like that.
Right.
Don't tell me he's actually a hardcore racist. I don't want to see that ER at the end of that word, at least have an A, so it tells me, however misguided they are, they think it's okay.
Even though I keep telling you, black folks,
you can't say A or
A don't make a
if
difference.
you're not
I'll
black.
tell you why it does make a difference.
I'm saying to us.
But to you, as a person, and to many black people, it makes a difference. What do you, as you would say, peel from someone if you see the A versus the ER? You're peeling different intention. On the one hand, you're saying they're misguided. On the other hand, you're saying, whoa, that's a hardcore racist. There is a difference signaled by which one they use.
I'm just trying to help you out, bro. I'm trying to tell you to us it don't really
I've had experience.
Okay.
I've been told by many African-American people, they don't care if it's A or ER.
Of course
if
not.
you are not black.
In
The
other words,
intention, there is a difference.
there is a difference. In other words, you're angry either way, but the intention you can get is different. And the reason his explanation for me works here, it's plausible to me, is that I was confused because I saw it with the A, but then I also saw if it ain't white, it ain't right. And I thought, well, wait a minute, that's good. Is he listening to hip hop and he's racist? Or how does that work?
Right.
So his explanation, and with the proof, I was appropriating popular culture in both cases, a rap lyric, a TV show, neither of which are made by racist people or with racist intention. It makes sense to me, so I find his explanation plausible.
But I'll help you out with this to clarify where Max is coming from. Here's the deal. If you take time and you reflect on what is said, maybe you have a point. I am expressing to you that in the moment you hear it,
Yeah, you get angry.
You don't differentiate between the two.
Sure.
That's what I'm alluding to. In the moment that you receive it. Now, obviously, if you step back minutes or hours later, something like that, okay. But in that moment, when you're hearing it, no, you don't.
But then you hear. But
what you go by what you see. You see this white guy with those words coming out of his mouth, and it's a problem.
But then you find out, oh, he's quoting a rap lyric. Oh, he likes so and so. Oh, okay, yeah, I like so and so too. I listened to that song too. He just shouldn't be quoting it on Twitter, obviously. But I think his explanation flies, and it's too bad that he didn't come on First Take today, which he was scheduled to do, because it seems as though he is telling the truth to me. One last thing quickly.
I don't get the impression, by the way, from speaking to him that it's something he would run from if it were not the night.
Yeah, he canceled all the appearances, not just First Take.
The day of the NFL draft. That's what this is about.
One last thought about this. You know, if the idea is to find that a prospect is perfect with nothing in their past, that's a mistake. Because show me a perfect person and I will show you a liar. There's no such thing as a perfect person with nothing in their past that people can shake their finger at. Now, some things rise to higher levels than others. But the point is, if what is taken away from this is Josh Allen's not racist and he's also not perfect, he made a youthful indiscretion, he was racially insensitive, etc. in high school, that just shows you he is a human being. He is not a robot.
The operative word is youthful. Youthful. If he was an adult in the NFL already and this happened,
of course.
But he's a teenager.
No, I get it. He was 15 or 16 when it happened. We had Baker Mayfield, who was arrested last year on multiple charges. All right, we'll have much more on this, though. Still to come, guys. The shot heard around the NBA came from LaBreezy last night. The guys will debate what it means for the Cavaliers moving forward. Plus, Russell Westbrook had himself a night as well against the Jazz. But does this mean the Thunder can come back and win that series? Stay tuned.
First Take is presented by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. And in part by Marvel Studios' Avengers: Infinity War in theaters April 27th, rated PG-13. And Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
There's little rest for a single dad, and back pain made it hard to sleep and get up on time. Then I found Aleve PM.
The only one to combine a safe sleep aid plus the 12-hour pain-relieving strength of Aleve.
I'm back.
Aleve PM for a better AM.
Any comment on the lemons and limes and the ice and crisp and cool and the refreshment in cutting through thirst in tonight's